Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
You can use the data form to search for records in your database or list that match a criteria you set. You can use either matching criteria or comparison criteria. When you use matching criteria, you enter information into a criteria field for which you want Excel to search through the list to find records that exactly match the value you set for the field. Excel will then filter the records in the data form, only displaying those records that match the criteria you set. Using matching criteria is like using an equal sign for criteria. Criteria need to match spelling exactly, but they're not case sensitive. When you use comparison criteria, you enter a comparative value into a criteria field. Once again, Excel will search through the list to find records that fall within the range of criteria values that you set for the field. Excel will then filter the records through the data form, only displaying those records that fall within the criteria range that you set. Typically, comparison criteria use operators like this, less than, or greater than to find ranges of records. Once you've created a criteria and filtered the records, you then have to click the Find Previous and Find Next buttons at the right side of the data form to move through the database looking for records that match or fall within your criteria specified range. If you try to use the keyboard arrows or the vertical scroll bar to move through the records, your criteria will be ignored, and all records will then be displayed. To set up filtering criteria, first you open the data form. You then click the Criteria button at the right side of the data form. The word Criteria will appear over the button group at the right side of the data form, and you'll see any currently applied filtering criteria displayed in the fields at the left side of the data form. You may delete these old criteria from the fields if needed. To then start a new filtering criteria, click into the field by which you want Excel to filter the records in your list. Then type the criteria that you want to use, including any operators for comparison as desired. Then click the Find Previous and Find Next buttons to move through the records in your database that match the criteria that you've specified. Excel will beep when it's reached the first or last record in your database that matches your criteria. If you click Find Previous and Find Next, and it doesn't move at all, then there may not be enough records that match your criteria. So here we can see there is no one from the West region that made less than $10,000 in sales. Deleting that criteria and using Find Previous and Find Next does find additional records. Now Excel will beep when it reaches the first or last record in your database that matches your criteria. Remember that if you try to use the keyboard arrows or scroll bar to move through the records, the criteria will be ignored and all records will then be displayed. So now we're seeing people from the North region. With matching criteria, you simply need to set the value against which you wish to match into the appropriate criteria field. You can also use many comparison criteria by simply prefacing the criteria value against which you wish to compare the field with a comparison operator. These comparison operators are available for most search and comparison tools in Excel. We can use the equal sign, which is not actually used here, as that is matching criteria and is simply assumed if no other operator is specified. You can also use the greater than sign, the less than sign. You can select greater than or equal to, or less than and equal to. Comparison operators are not unique to Excel and can be used in many other applications like Microsoft Access to filter and search for data. You'll also be able to use these operators in many different areas of Excel when you do want to perform filtering on your data. Now you must delete all previous criteria that you set before you can apply new criteria by which to filter the database or list. Otherwise, both criteria will be in effect on both fields, which often causes the criteria to improperly function. To clear your criteria, you can open the data form and click the Criteria button to see any criteria for the fields that you've set. Click the Clear button at the right side to clear all criteria from all fields. When you want to return to the regular data form, just click the Form button at the right side of the data form box to return to the regular view of your database records.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.